Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate you taking a few moments. If you will, join me in the book of Genesis, Genesis chapter number 38, beginning in verse number 3. And we're going to deal with one of those odd Old Testament sections that have some things going on that seem um, unusual to us at best, just slap weird. Um, is probably a better way of looking at it. Beginning in verse 3, talking about someone named Er. She conceived and bore a son and called his name Er. She conceived again and bore a son. She called his name Onan. Yet again she bore a son and called his name Shelah. Judah was in Chezib when she bore him. And Judah took a wife for Er, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Go into your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her, and raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he went into his brother's wife, he would waste the semen on the ground, so as not to give offspring to his brother. And what he did was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and he put him to death also. Told you it was weird. Here's what's going on. In case you're keeping score at home, here's what's going on in the unique family of Judah, Jacob, and Old Testament tradition. Judah's wife has three sons. Just evidently, it appears to be just boom, boom, boom. The proverbial stepchildren, stepchildren. They just right after the other. Their names are Onan, and Shelah. Now, Judah named the first one, but for whatever reason, his wife names the last two. And there's been suggestion that meant that his wife, as an unbeliever, was starting to run the house, and that her religion, her false religion, was really beginning to influence the children. And again, we don't see any real godliness in this family through Scripture. So we have these three children, who are these three boys, who are being raised in a environment, it appears, with no, if very little, if any, God. The oldest one, Er, grows up, and when he does, he goes out. Judah goes out. He evidently decides he wants to make sure he's married to a good woman. Goes out and marries, finds him a wife, and he again finds her a wife. Finds a lady here by the name of Tamar. Tamar marries Er, but Er was so wicked that God allowed him to die. We don't know what he did. We don't know why he was so evil. We don't even have a clue. Whatever he did was so wicked. In verse 7, it says that he was so wicked that God allows him to die. And again, the wording there in the original really stresses that the wickedness that he was doing was bad, that it was real wicked, that God saw it. So Judah steps in, and he follows. I know this seems weird again in our culture, but it was the law of the land at the time. He takes Tamar, Er's wife, gives her to his next son, the next oldest, which was Onan. And again, this was the law of the time, and it was again the way things were done. And the law was that if a man died without any children, then the next son would marry his widow, and they would have children together, or at least one. And when they had a son, that son would be legally the dead man's son. That way he would have an heir. His family could go on. Family name would go on. The property would stay in the family. And so the point is that this son that Onan was going to have with Tamar would actually be considered legally heir's son. And his heir's property would belong to this son that was born. And what happens is, again, this is again a strange law, strange custom, but it is the way things happens. Onan didn't like that. He didn't want that, and so while he agreed to have sex with Tamar, he refused to consummate the act, and so that she would not get pregnant. And God was not deceived. God was not pleased, and so God allows him to die as well for his wickedness. And again, I know, strange story. I didn't write it. I'm just reporting the news. I don't make the news. So God judges Onan for his actions. There's several things that, again, we're not sure what Er did, but it's obvious what Onan did. He was basically taking advantage of Tamar. He was basically just having sex with his brother's wife, is what this amounts to. He was being rebellious. This was the law. This was the rule. This is what his father had sent him to do. There's, he's just being disobedient. He's not showing any compassion, care, love towards this woman, towards his brother. And again, I understand that everything about this story is odd and strange in our time, but it was the law. And he goes against it, and he pays a horrible, a steep price for his disobedience. And as I think about this, again, this is a strange story. Nobody's arguing that point. But what it says to me, as I listen to it, as I think about it, is I don't have to understand the rules. I don't have to understand why God says, I don't have to understand why God says not to steal. He just says don't steal. I don't have to understand why he says not to use his name in vain. I just have to be obedient. I don't have to understand why he said honor your father and mother. I just have to be obedient. This passage reminds us we don't have to understand the rules. We don't have to like the rules. But that's why he's God and we're not. We just have to be obedient. And again, maybe that's the reason God gives us a story that is so strange, because he knows it'll catch our attention. Again, to remind us of the importance of obedience, even when we don't like the rule or don't understand the rule. Or Jonah's another good example. Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh. Jonah didn't get a choice. He didn't like the people in Nineveh. He didn't get a choice. He didn't want to preach to the people in Nineveh. He didn't get a choice. Didn't understand why God would want to preach to the people in Nineveh. Didn't get a choice. This passage and others reminds us of the importance of obedience. You think about it. Have a great day. We'll see you here tomorrow.